Well, in virtually every case in our long history, in respect to gaining bargaining rights, teachers have proven successful because they've been able to choose the right tactics, the right strategies at that time over a wide range of options open to them. They've stuck together, they've been united, and when they've done that and stood together, they've been able to achieve remarkable things, not only for teachers, but for their students and for public education. A short 2 years after the BCTF was formed, and BCTF was formed in 1917, in 1919, Victoria teachers went out in what was the first strike in what was then called the British Empire. And the strike lasted for several days. They were successful in having the school board recognize them as representative of the teachers in that district, and they did achieve the salary objective that they were seeking. In 1921 in New Westminster, teachers went on a longer strike, which essentially established the right of locals to represent their members with the board in discussions and negotiations about salaries. A major development in our bargaining rights occurred in 1939 when the Langley local, led by a woman president and a lot of women activists in the local at the time, took on their school board. The board did not want to abide by what an arbitration board had ruled. And not only that, they intimidated and attempted to intimidate and pressure and coerce the teachers. And the teachers stood together. They were totally united. And eventually the government came in, fired the board, and appointed a trustee. The trustee then implemented the arbitration award and removed all discipline and transfers and demotions that had taken place.
Our courses of study must awaken the natural curiosity of youth, for the future of our national welfare depends upon the product of today's classroom.
I don't know where I picked up this idea, but I picked it up somewhere, that we were not going to get the best into teaching unless they were well paid. Because during the Depression and through that era, they were very poorly paid. And I caught on to that, and that's the part of the BCTF that I became very involved in, was salary committees. The 7 or 8 people who were on the salary committee. There was never a break in our solidarity. It was just amazing how solid we were.
That's right. That's about that. I didn't think this was a very formal town anyway.
In 1974, when we had an NDP government in Victoria, Surrey teachers decided that they would walk off the job the next day and go to Victoria en masse to pressure the government to reduce class sizes. This was a political act that the teachers in Surrey took, and it was an overwhelmingly successful action. As a result of that action, the BCTF negotiated with the government a major infusion of resources into school districts to result in bringing down the what was then the pupil-teacher ratio. During the late 70s and into the early 80s, we wanted to expand our bargaining rights.
Bargaining was simply salaries and bonuses as per the School Act.
We wanted to negotiate, our working conditions. We wanted to negotiate a whole number of things that other working people who are organized into trade unions were allowed to negotiate.
So we went to the bargaining table and didn't talk about money at all. We only talked about the working and learning conditions that were important to us. And the boards said, well, we can't talk to you about all these other things, but here's some money.
You made an impassioned case for why teachers should be able to have lunch hour. And being told, who do you think you are? Teachers don't have the right to talk about their working and learning conditions. You realize that, don't you?
And so we went back and said, well, we're really interested in class size and in improving conditions generally. Well, we can't do that. Here's some more money.
We made some breakthroughs early in the 80s by doing what we called bonusing. We would say to an arbitrator, if we can't have a duty-free lunch hour, we're not allowed to talk about that. We want teachers to get a bonus, a salary bonus, every time they have to do noon hour supervision. And some arbitrators awarded that. That was a great breakthrough for us, because school board said, we can't afford to pay all this money to teachers to do noon hour supervision. We can hire noon hour supervisors at less cost. And we said, great, that's what we wanted in the first place.
In every ministry, in every government office, in every crown corporation, and in every public body, restraint measures will be taken.
There were 26 bills that were passed in July of 1983 that, including Bill 3, which was the one that would allow for the dismissal without cause of any employee.
And it was very obvious within a matter of weeks that school boards were going to try to use this power to get rid of union activists.
And that's why teachers became part of what was then called Solidarity.
There was a strategy for a public sector expanding strike and eventually possibly to a general strike. And we were the second group out, and we're out for 3 days when there was the famous Kelowna Accord with Jack Monroe. But we did make some gains out of that, and the most important one was to introduce seniority as a basis for layoffs. It also was important to us because it was really the first step in expanding the scope of bargaining. It now became established that we could bargain much more broadly the kinds of things that were important to teachers.
There's no stopping us. Thank you.
Bill 20 did some incredible things to teachers. It said that there was no such a thing as a BC Teachers Federation in the School Act any longer. We now found ourselves having to go out and find members and sign up people.
But we gained what we had lost legislatively, we gained in bargaining. But in the meantime, we had this voluntary sign-up. And it was a very powerful demonstration by teachers standing together to government that said, you can try to divide us, you can do what you like, but we're sticking together. Local bargaining worked very well for us.
And I recall very vividly the general meeting in the Princess Margaret Gym, Princess Margaret Secondary School in Surrey. We had concluded an agreement, and it was a ratification meeting, and there was a couple thousand teachers in that room, and it was novel. This was something new. Nobody had ever experienced this before. And so I got to announce to that packed room that we had gotten an agreement for a duty-free lunch hour, and people went crazy. There was a spontaneous applause, and it was like they were going to blow the roof off the place.
We were very successful in using what we called the whipsaw. That is to say, if one district would get certain provisions from their school board, then other districts would say, well, why not here? The third round of local bargaining, we had some major strikes in the urban area, one in Vancouver and one in Surrey, which affected thousands, tens of thousands of students. And the NDP government of the day, they ordered teachers to return to work, ended the strike, and had an arbitration settlement imposed on the parties. And then immediately following that, the NDP decided to bring in provincial bargaining, and its introduction was very much opposed by the BCTF. We saw it as an end to teacher participation in the bargaining process, and we weren't able to negotiate with the employer an agreement at the table in 3 rounds of bargaining.
Mr. Campbell, how will larger class sizes improve our education system? How will fewer counselors and teacher librarians and ESL teachers and learning assistant teachers improve education in British Columbia?
As teachers, we care deeply about the students who are entrusted to us, and we care about the role public schools play in our communities and in our democracy. And because of that caring, we are all called upon to take a stand. By our commitment to be here today, each one of us is taking a stand for our members and their rights as working people to a fair remuneration for a difficult job well done. We're taking a stand in defense of kids and their right to a quality public education. We're taking a stand in resistance to the privateers who seek to profit from kids' needs and hopes and dreams. We're taking a stand for authentic teaching and learning instead of testing and ranking. And in the overall sense, we're taking a stand for a civil society based on mutual caring and respect instead of cutthroat competition.
It was the solidarity of teachers in locals, as well as solidarity through the whole BCTF that has really brought the BCTF to where it is today.
We face a serious challenge, but this is not the first for the teachers in British Columbia. We have a proud history of standing together and taking collective action to make improvements for our students, our profession, ourselves, and for public education. Our past experience tells us that the media and the politicians are going to be critical of the positions we have taken. But we know that our commitment to our goals is going to make a difference. We know that we do have unity around our goals, and we know that we have to stay together to achieve those goals. For our students, our colleagues, and public education depend on us. I want to thank you for your courage, for your commitment, and the tremendous work you do every single day. Thank you.